What's up, addicts? Here we are, day one of our wild broodstock spawn. Right now what we're doing is we're crowding the fish that we've collected from angler donated broodstock, and we're just sorting through them in our tote here. And what we're sorting for is fish that are ready to spawn now and fish that aren't. Any fish that aren't ready to spawn go back in the raceway and we'll spawn them later. We've spawned 3 so far, and so about 50% right now are ready to spawn.
1784 female. Going back. 1784 female going back. Oh, maybe. That one's actually I can squeeze the belly.
So what we're going to do is use oxygen to fill the body cavity with air and express the eggs out of the fish without having to squeeze or cut her belly. This is live spawning, and this is a good way to do it.
I like when they go on their own.
What I'm taking is this is a very...
Just hold it. Just hold it. Hold it down, Kevin. Perfect. Keep going. Keep going. Keep shooting. I'll shake them out. Machine gun. Hey.
Oh,
Good. Good.
Yeah, don't reach it.
Yeah, she's gonna go on the truck now. Yep. And you guys got a burper. Remember that one?
yep.
Good point, you go.
Lay it up on the top though. There you go.
DNA sample. Oh yeah, that's an older fish.
Big old scales.
Scale sample, tell us age.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, now we have to get the air out of the fish. So the best way to do that is let go overhead, head down in the water. Air floats, so
Yeah.
head down, air up out through the vent until she stops tooting. So what we're doing here is after we've spawned the fish, stripped the eggs or the milk from the fish, we put it here in the tank. We get scale sample to tell us the age of the fish and a DNA sample to tell us kind of the parentage on the fish for down the road when we produce juveniles from them. Once we've done that, we recover the fish here in an oxygen recirculated system on the truck, and when we're done today we'll truck these wild fish back to the main river. We'll release them where they can head back out and hopefully come back in next year or a couple years from now and spawn again.
1985 and 1985 and 87 going back in the farm. It looks like it, yeah. He's about 16 pounds probably. His little girlfriend there looks tiny. But he's got 2 girlfriends, I think, or maybe a boyfriend. Pretty sure.
So as you can see, the fish are acting a little bit sleepy, and that's a good thing. It allows us to work with them without them reacting or getting violent. And what we're doing is pumping CO2 into the water, and the CO2 makes them sleepy.
Let's take this buck real quick and then we'll do her.
Very nice fish. Perfect candidate for broodstock.
That's 1998.
1998.
Oh yeah. We used it for all of them. Yeah, whenever you're ready, I got a big boy coming, so just let me know. That was a nice fish. That's probably, it's a solid 15 pounder. Okay, I'm coming in.
Look at it, Kevin.
I gotta get this.
Holy crap!
Look at that thing.
Look at the size of that scale. That's like an old fish.
That's like a fingernail size.
Big fish or old fish?
You know, normally we're getting like 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, you need like 1 at a time to get the fish down.
Whew, that last one was feisty. Got a shower. Second shower.
Good thing it's 70 degrees in March.
Yup.
If it would suck, if it was pouring down rain right now.
Snowing like 2 weeks ago.
There we go.
78, 79 is the spawner.
78, 79.
Yeah, I did not have him. Then we got 80 and 81.
Okay, now we've gone through, sorted all of our wild broodstock. Our fish that we have used for spawning, that were ready to spawn, are now on the truck, and they're gonna go downriver, back into the river to be released into the wild and either out migrate to the ocean, or some will even finish spawning in the river and out migrate. After that, the truck's gonna go, we're gonna go down and now actually fertilize eggs. We're gonna spawn wilds with our hatchery fish. We're gonna integrate some fish right now.
All right, where you got them at, Jack? Right in that corner there?
Right here.
Yeah, we'll just net them up.
I don't know.
So we need a bat and a whacker setup for females.
There's a couple here.
Yep. Thing, the bee thing's laying over there. So obviously we're checking females.
You have a tote for carcasses?
Not yet, but we'll get there.
How many do you think we have, you guys?
There's like, I think we had 17 or 18 saved from previous weeks, and then we'll have to go through some new ones probably too, to get everything we need for the day.
So we've probably got about 30 hatchery fish here to go through, and we're gonna kill spawn them and integrate with our wild fish. I'm gonna stand over here.
Dig in, Charles.
Yeah.
Just actually clipping the fish. If they're still not ripe, then either way they go, I guess.
Ooh. I don't want to break. Looks like somebody got on there and reinforced it. Very ripe. Thanks, buddy. This is the best job.
Nice hatchery fish here. Spawn this fish in the bucket and we'll put a wild male on her. Integrate our wild fish. Should be 2 more, right?
Yes.
It's really
Thank you. We're basically cutting the tails off right now, so we know they've been sampled and accounted for. We're gonna be taking them upriver and dumping them off a bridge. We call it nutrient enrichment. Basically let the bodies decompose, get back into the system, basically help feed the system from the bottom up.
So these are new fish that have arrived over the last week or so. So what we're doing is craning them up here and we're gonna sort them out. So fish we want to hold to spawn, we'll hold. Fish we can spawn, we'll spawn. Any wild fish will pass upstream. So we're just going through the mixture of fish that has swam in over the last week or two. Ooh, look at that!
Oh, one salt's coming back now.
Really wild. Yep. So what I just did was we had a wild fish come into our trap, and all wild fish we trap here at this facility we have to introduce back into the river upstream of our dam so they can continue up and spawn in the wild. So fish being what they are, unpredictable, we've got a small Jack wild coho in our trap, and it's the middle of March right now. It's a March coho.
That's something.
You can tell by his white gums. There's
There's a steelhead
spotting
compared to
pattern. There's a steelhead.
Yeah, should that thing go back in the river then?
This guy go back above.
in the creek.
This guy's gonna go upstream. So what we have here, and I could tell by the hole punch in the gill plate on this fish, is a recycled fish. So this fish was trapped here at the hatchery earlier in the winter and recycled downriver for additional angling opportunity. And our last recycle, the very last one we did, was February 4th. So we're about a month and a half from that time frame. That fish has taken a month and a half to spend time in the river and come back up here. Didn't get caught. So the final product after we've sorted and killed our fish and spawned what we needed, Some of it goes back into the river for stream enrichment. We'll also select and donate a few fish to school groups for their science classes. It's a good way to get local kids learning about local fisheries. Early in the season, when the first batches of fish come in and we kill some or hold some to spawn, the ones that are still in good shape, we also will donate to local food banks to help feed those in need as well.
Okay, so Kevin and I were just talking, kind of want to make everybody understand broodstock. The word is thrown around very broadly, very general term, because technically a broodstock can be any group of fish that you're holding to make brood for spawning, which could be hatchery or wild. Here at this hatchery, I know we're not supposed to say names, I'm sure a lot of you people know where we're at, but we're in Oregon. We can do, the allowed number of wild fish that we can keep for spawning is 2% of our entire basin's escapement of wild fish. So this year that number came down to be 49 fish. I think we got a total of 47 is what we ended up with, anglers turning in. And today you just saw, I think we just spawned 25 of them. Fantastic wild fish spawn. Why we mix hatchery fish with it? It's because we want that genetic diversity to spread as far as we can. If we just mix wild and wild fish, out of those 49, let's say every single one of those spawned and we mixed perfect pairs, we would only get, what is that, 24 pairs of fish?
Yeah.
This way, today we got 25 pairs. We still have another, I forget the numbers, there's another 20 fish in the pond, or 22 fish in the pond, I think.
Yep.
If we got every single one of those to spawn in time, we could spread it out, we could double our genetic makeup of our fish. And the reason we do that too, though, is in the early 2000s here on this river system, and also on the other local Portland River system that you guys have been covering, those fish, all in the 2000s, were started with all wild fish spawned together to make the stock that we have now of hatchery fish. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when we mix a hatchery fish, it's not like you're mixing a stock from another river system. Those fish were genetically wild fish in the beginning. That lineage has come down over the last 20 years. And so basically we've all tried to come up with a word like recharging or re-energizing the stock. That's why it ends up being roughly 25% of the released fish of every spring will be, one of the parents will be a wild fish.
Right.
And so that re-energizes any adaptations, any evolution traits that those wild fish are gaining over the years. We make sure to keep breeding a little bit of that into the hatchery stock.
So if the question ever comes up why we don't take all of our fish for broodstock, all of our wild fish only, it's because we're constricted by the ESA, especially here in the metro area, and because we already are working with hatchery fish that are from original wild parentage going back a couple decades.
Just wanted to get everybody clear on broodstock means a lot of different things, a lot of different people. It's all regulatory on each watershed, each basin, each river. So there's a lot of different ways to broodstock fish, and this is how we do it here.
Now we've already given you the rundown on how our broodstock works here specifically. We're going to take the fish that we've processed and spawned here at the hatchery and put them back into the ecosystem by stream enrichment. We're going to go toss them at a location upriver where the carcasses will disperse throughout the river and they'll break down over time, and the ecosystem will utilize the nutrients from those carcasses from the bottom up, basically refeeding the ecosystem. Rather than just removing these fish, we're going to put them back out there to break down naturally. All right, so now what we're going to do is simply one by one pitch these steelhead carcasses off this bridge, and the current will naturally drag them downriver where they'll settle out and break down and feed the environment. It's important that I make a note that these fish that we are seeding the river with, that we've killed, are all our hatchery fish that have returned. None of these are our wilds. All of our wilds are live spawned and returned back to the river alive to swim out to the ocean. There we go. Might be one or two stuck in there. Bye-bye. Now we've done our job. We're feeding the environment with these surplus hatchery fish, and the cycle is complete. So now we've wrapped up our wild broodstock spawn. The last of our fish, 20 fish, are on the truck now to run back downstream and release back into the main river to either go back to the ocean, or even some will remain in the river to continue spawning. We had about a dozen fish out of this batch that were still not ready to spawn, simply because they were collected this month and they're gonna spawn sometime over the next 8 weeks. Those fish are also gonna go back to the river, and we're gonna give them a chance to go upriver and spawn and complete their cycle. So now we're gonna go downstream and set these fish loose, and that'll conclude our wild broodstock spawn for 2019. All right, we have about 20 fish to put back in the river, and if everything goes right, they'll out-migrate to the ocean and come back in another year, maybe 2, as even bigger wild broodstock. So not all of these fish will just go straight back out to the ocean. Some of them for sure will turn and go back upstream because they aren't completely done spawning. As a matter of fact, last week Jordan Carnegie caught one of our fish that we had spawned the previous week and released right here, and he caught it 20 miles upriver just a few days later. So that fish clearly wasn't done spawning. It had gone back up to do its thing and was in good enough shape to bite a nice bead. Try not to do one at a time, but that's it. Off they go. So now that we've released the very last of our wild 2019 broodstock steelhead, our focus will now shift to finishing spawning the last of our hatchery fish at the hatchery, and after that it's on to the next, and that's spring Chinook broodstock collection. Starts in May.
All right, all you addicts, so thanks so much for tuning into that episode. That one was kind of like to let these people into the hatchery, right? Kind of show them what goes on there.
Yep.
Talk about it a little bit more.
Yep, we got to see a lot of the moving parts that are going on. Oftentimes it can be kind of chaos. As you saw, we were spawning fish alongside a raceway one day, and at the same time, juvenile summer steelhead were brought in and put in that raceway right next to our fish, because those fish need to go out in a few weeks. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts going on, and it can be hectic. Certain times of year, you know, it's a skeleton crew out there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a scramble to get the work done, but I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And learned a lot from it. I mean, it's not as easy as it's all cracked up to be.
Exactly, and that's kind of the point of this, guys, is to show you, guys and gals, I know there's a lot of ladies out there watching this too, but that's kind of the point, is to show kind of that it's not easy, you know, and we have to fight and we have to work hard for our fish to kind of support the future of the fisheries and make sure that we have a solid run in the future. And these guys are at the base doing it day to day to day to day. So we got to support them in any way we can. And I think just kind of educating all you out there is one way to do it. So hopefully you're enjoying these. And tomorrow you get to see a freaking monster, a giant, giant broodstock fish. I'm so freaking stoked. So please, please, please tap the subscribe button. Share this out there. Show a family member, show a friend, and turn on the little bell so you get notified when the videos come out. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.